Mr. President, here we are at approximately 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon, trying to do the people's business in a situation that nobody wanted, and yet because I believe of political self-interest, we are in a situation right now where we are in what I would call a crisis mode of operation. We need to get a deal done. But I want to address a couple of topics today that are at issue here as we debate the funding issue, which is at the crux of why we're here today and this weekend. Our country was built on immigration. There's just no question about that. We are all direct derivatives in one way or the other. But I'd like to be very clear. Most of the people that are here in this country over the last 2 centuries came in legally. Today, we bring in 1.1 million people a year legally, Mr. President. We bring in about 70,000 people who have a job-related way to get into our system. There are about 70,000 direct family members. That's the spouse and immediate children. There are another 300,000 refugees and asylum seekers, Mr. President. There is a rational reason that we should do that, and we've been doing that. Today, every day, asylum seekers and refugees are permitted into our country. But, Mr. President, there's another 800,000 that come in legally every year that the only reason they come in is because they have an indirect family link through generations to the 70,000 that come in and work. Given that environment, Mr. President, we also have a temporary work permit system here that, again, has over 1 million people in it every year. Our country is the most welcoming, philanthropic country in the history of the world, Mr. President, and to think that just protecting our borders as a national security issue is somehow hard-hearted and radical. No country in the history of the world has ever demonstrated that it was a radical thought to maintain and protect the sovereignty of their own country and their own borders. Indeed, Mr. President, there were only 6 reasons why 13 colonies came together in the first place in the late 18th century and formed the United States of America. The number one reason articulated is to provide for the common defense of our country. President Trump is leading right now in his first responsibility, and that is to protect every citizen of the United States of America. He's fighting for the American people. Actually, that's how he got elected, Mr. President. He got elected because he complained about the dysfunction in Washington, about politicians, bureaucrats, and the media. And Mr. President, so did I in 2014, 2 years before President Trump did. I believe that people are fed up with this dysfunction in Washington. But I want to reemphasize that what is at issue here is the protection of our sovereignty as a country, not to change the immigration laws. That's not what is at debate today. I want to remind everybody that just in this body, this year, 43 of my colleagues across the aisle, 43 in an immigration bill proposed by Susan Collins on this side, 43 Democrats voted for a $25 billion border security package, Mr. President. 43. I think President Trump has demonstrated tremendous negotiating willingness over and over this past year on this issue. Be clear what's going on. The flow of drugs and human trafficking at our border is completely unacceptable. Everybody in this body agrees with that, demonstrated by the fact that 43 Democrats actually voted for a $25 billion border security package earlier this year. There's no way you can avoid admitting that. This has to stop. The undampened flow of illegal drugs has created a crisis in our country. The fact that we sit here and are more concerned about the political realities in Washington than we are stopping human trafficking across our southern border is totally unacceptable, Mr. President. An open border goes against the very ideas of why our country was founded. It totally undercuts American sovereignty. The American people know that, and they're fed up with the status quo. And I can tell you firsthand, so is President Donald Trump. The Dems are very clear. My colleagues have demonstrated they prefer open borders, illegal drug transfers, and human trafficking to a common sense protection of our southern border. We know fences work. I've been to countries around the world where they're protecting their borders with simple fences where they need them. And we have a multiple approach to defending our southern border. We have many miles right now that already have similar fences up that deter illegal crossage. At the same time, this president has shown over and over again that he's workable with our colleagues across the aisle to find some common solution here that we can all live with. He's ready to make a deal today. In fact, right as we speak, the Vice President, the President, and the Chief of Staff are in the White House right now. The leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate is right now negotiating. This needs to get done, Mr. President. There's no reason. I've done dozens of these in my career, and there's no reason, looking at what is important to both parties, there's no reason this can't get done. I believe the President's ready to make a deal and fully fund the federal government, the last 25%. And let's remember how we got here. This body, the Senate and the House, this year did something it hadn't done in 22 years, and that is fund at least 75% of our federal government on time. That was by September 30th. We are here at the end of the first quarter of our next fiscal year, still trying to fund the last 25% because of this controversy over the border wall. First number was $25 billion, as I said, that was agreed to by the other side. Then there was another $5 billion offered up. Lastly, the President, I thought, had a deal early this week with our colleagues across the aisle for $1.6 billion. That deal was taken away. We're right now, I think, experiencing the second Schumer shutdown of this year. First was over the DACA controversy. President Trump took the Democratic request for 600,000 work permits for an indefinite period of time and changed that and made an offer of 1.8 million DACA recipients for a pathway to citizenship. He took a chance with the ultra-right in our party, the conservative party, part of the party. He took a chance and stood up and said, this is the right thing to do if it's paired with the right deal on the other side. I believe that there's no reason why we can't get this package done right now. I think the President agrees with that. I think the Democratic leader agrees with that. But prior to yesterday, for a few days, there was no one talking. I give Mick Mulvaney and the Vice President a lot of credit yesterday. I know that the Vice President was in this building until about 9:30 last night negotiating this. I just believe that it's time to get this done. Nancy Pelosi in the House repeatedly said that President Trump couldn't get the votes from the House to pass a funding package that included these border security priorities. Well, we now know she was wrong. The votes were there. The House has sent a bill back over here that has not only border security, but relief package, a serious relief package for hurricane victims, disaster relief victims, and the wildfire victims in California. The U.S. Senate should have included President Trump's priorities from the very beginning. Now this body has a chance to do the right thing. It's time to get this done, Mr. President. We're here. Let's get a deal, bring it back in here, pass it, get it back to the House, and let's stop this nonsense. Let's not yield to political self-interest on either side, Mr. President. I implore all of us who have influence with the people who are negotiating this to let's get beyond this. This is so close. There's no reason that we're sitting here letting America be nervous about whether we're going to get this done. This should have been done back in September, Mr. President, as I said earlier. Now let's focus on our national interests, the things we're all called to do in our oath of office. Protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Let's fully fund this government, the last 25%, move past this, secure our border, and provide disaster relief for the people who are in a timely need right now for us to do that. Mr. President, I yield the floor, and I note the absence of a quorum.